Hi guys, Luther here from Luther's Woodworking. Today we're going to be talking about some keychains. Now, I made a video about a couple weeks back, a month or two back, about some keychains that I made. And it was basically making a bottle cap keychain like this here. And I didn't really, and I make a whole bunch of different types of keychains, but I didn't, somebody asked me the last couple weeks, because I make these keychains, these dice. I take dice and put them in a keychain here. And somebody asked me a couple weeks back how I go about cutting these dice in half. So I thought maybe I'd just do a video that shows you how I cut these dice in half. There's probably a ton of ways of doing it. I've been doing it just one way. It works pretty good. So I thought I'd just share with you a video on that. I'm not going to go through the whole process of making the keychain. I'm just going to show you cutting it in half and then actually putting it inside the hole that I drill here, because this is only half of a dice or die or whatever you want to call it. The other half would be the number 6. So one dice would give you 2 keychains. But I'm going to show you how I go about cutting them in half and getting them mounted in the holes. The rest of it basically will be up to you. So what you want to do, you can't really take this dice and hold it with your fingers and try to cut it. You're not going to cut this in half on your table saw. You're not going to cut this in half on your chop saw, because it's just, you can't do it. And then on your scroll saw, you might be able to think, well, you can cut this in half on your scroll saw. Well, the blade on your scroll saw, you know, it goes up and down like this. So you'd have to really hold it really good. And then you'd want to make sure you got a nice straight cut. Because the key thing in cutting these dice in half is getting each half exactly the same thickness. And what I ended up doing is using my bandsaw to cut these in half. But I made a little holder to hold that dice in, so I don't have to hold it with my fingers. So what I came up with a piece of wood like this here with a little square notch cut out of it. And you can see that this dice, or die, I'm not sure what you want to call it, fits right inside that square notch. Perfect. You have to cut that out. And you want to make sure that fits in there really nice and there's basically no play. And this is just a 3/4 inch piece of wood. Let me see, it's 2.5 inches wide by 3 3/4, 4 inches. It really don't matter how long. And basically, what I did was cut a block of wood like that, and I laid that dice on there on one edge. You want to keep this dice level with one edge right here. You lay it on there. You just take a sharp pencil and you trace around that dice. Because you're going to cut this notch out right here. If you can see this, hopefully you can see this. You're going to cut this square notch out right here, and hopefully it'll fit right in here, like that. And then you'll see right here, I have a piece cut off. It's not even right here, but we'll get to that later when I get to the bandsaw. But the first thing you want to do is, let me see if I can get my camera just a little bit closer right here. First thing you want to do is lay that dice on that board. And it don't matter if it's this way or this way. I just got it sitting right here. And you want to trace around it. And you want to make sure you get it nice and square traced around it. And then we're going to head over to the scroll saw, and I'm going to cut this out right here and see how this fits in there. So let's head over to the scroll saw. We'll cut this out, and then we'll come back because we got to do a little bit of adjustments to get that to fit right in there. Okay, at the scroll saw here, we're just going to cut out this area where we traced around the dice here. I'm using a number 3 reverse tooth blade. We're just going to quick cut that out. I usually cut down one side and I back out. I'll back out and then I'll cut down this side. And the reason I do that, because that way I got to make just one turn here, and then I can cut this out. And then your notch is cut out. We're going to head back over to the workbench and see if that fits in there nice. And if it don't, we can make a little adjustment here to get that to fit in there really nice. Alright, at the workbench here, we got that all cut out. We're going to try our dice in there, and it does fit kind of tight. And you don't want it to fit, you don't want to struggle putting this dice in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a little sanding on these edges in here until it fits in there really nice. Like this one right here. Fits in there really nice, both sides. And how I do that is, if you watch some of my other videos, you'll see that I take different grits of sandpaper and I glue them to paint sticks, and then I write down the grit on each side. This is 80 grit, and that way you can use a paint stick because it's thin, and you can get in areas to sand. So what we're going to do is just go here, and we're just going to sand this edge a little bit on that edge, a little bit on this edge, and you want to keep it straight. And then you're going to keep on trying your dice in there. And you can see it's still tight in the front part right here. So you want to just keep on going here. And it might take a little bit to get it to fit. You don't want it too loose. That's the main thing. You want it to fit in there, but you don't want it too loose. So we know it's tight on the inside right here. So we're just going to try to get that inside a little more. And you want to keep on trying it. See, now that went in there. Whoops. Just dropped that one. That went in there on that side, but it's not coming out the back. So that tells me we got to do a little bit more sanding on this back edge over here. So we're just going to sand that a little bit. Sand that a little bit. And we got some more sanding we got to do. Got to keep on trying until we get this to fit in there. Now it's almost. It's a little tight going out the back side. So we're going to take a little off right here. And we're going to try that. It's still a little tight yet. All right, so here we have this dice. It goes in, if you can see it, it goes in the top, out the back, and no matter how you do it, it fits in there really nice. Now, another thing you want to make sure is once it's in there, You want this edge right here to be flush with this. And if you can see, it's not really flush. So we need to take this back down just a little bit right here. And what I have here is a paint stick with sandpaper on it, but I got it cut down narrow so I can fit that in the back right here. And we're just going to sand that back until we get that dice down to fit in there. And this might take a little bit. Because if you put a straight edge across there, you're still up quite a bit. So we need to take a little bit off of this yet. And this might take a little bit of work to get that down. Flip it around. Set it in there. Put your straight edge across there. It's still a little high. Getting closer. That straight edge across there, we're getting closer. Because you want this straight edge right here, you want this to be up against your fence. Perfect. So we're just going to go a little bit more yet. Put that in there. Just a little bit, not much at all. Set that in there. Just a tiny bit yet. You're just going to have to work at it because you don't want this to rock on your fence when you go to put this up against your fence on your bandsaw. So we'll just keep plugging away at this here. Now we'll just try that again. That is real close, but I'm going to just go a little bit more yet. Just take this corner out here. Try that. A little more yet. Okay, let's see what we got to do. Is I'm going to go on my scroll saw. I'm going to clean these corners out just a little bit, and then I'll be back. Okay, so we got this to fit. You're going to have to work at this. You're going to have to work at getting that dice to fit in there really nice. You can see right here I got that fitting there really nice. Goes in both sides. And it's also level on the top right here. That's the main thing you want right there. Now, to cut it down the middle, because this, your fence to your bandsaw is going to be here. You're going to set this in there. But what I do first is put the number 1 up. Basically, I'm going to line this up. Where's my pencil? Let me grab a pencil here. All right, so what you're going to do is put the number 1 right here. And you're going to try to hold it right on the edge. You're going to go down the center of your dot right here. Now you're going to hold that down the edge, and you're going to put a mark on your board right here. This mark right here is where you're going to line your bandsaw blade up, on this side of the mark. Because you want to cut down here, so when you put your dice in here, it's going to cut down the center of this hole right here. Just like on the one I made right here. If I put my mark right there, you can see the mark I put on the dice right there. It's right lined up at this place right here. So basically, you want to do the same thing on the one you're making. And like I say, you got to work at getting this to fit in there. You might have to do this once or twice. I think it took me a couple times to figure out how I was going to do this when I first started doing these videos of cutting these in half. So let's head over to the bandsaw and give this a try once and see how this turns out. Alright, at the bandsaw here. Now, this is the one I made. We'll set that aside. Here's the one that we just made with the dice that fits in there. What you want to do is get this lined up to cut down exactly the middle of your dice. And remember, I put that mark on the board right here. What we're going to do is line our bandsaw. And I know it's kind of hard to see. It's kind of hard to see, but I'm lining my blade up with that mark. And I'm going to run in and I'm going to cut all the way into here. And hopefully, we got it exactly half. Now you could take your dice here and just set it right here and just kind of eye it up. Could just kind of eye it up to see if it's going down the center or not. I think what we're going to do is move this fence just a little bit. The key thing is you want to try to get this dice the same size on this half and this half, same thickness. It may not be perfect, but you want to get them as close as possible to the same thickness. So let's try that once. And another thing, I have a 1/4 inch bandsaw blade in here, so I wouldn't go any bigger than that. So we have our block cut right here. Kind of looks just like the one I made. Now we're going to set our dice in here and see if we can't make this work. Now what I did, let me quick grab something, but I'm going to show you what I do. Here's the one, here's my original one. I'll take this one and set it up here, up against, and you can see it goes, you can see this edge right here goes right up against my blade. So I know I got that set perfect. So hopefully we take this one, and that one's the same exact thing. We're going to see if we did this right. We're going to see if we cut this exactly down the middle. Now, what I like to do is put the number 1 up, set it in there, and now we're going to run this through and cut this. And these dice are made of plastic, so take your time, go slow, and don't tip your thing like this here. Keep the pressure on this flat part right here. So we'll give this a try and see how this works. Now that is about as good as you're going to get right there. Each piece is pretty much the exact same thickness, and that's what you're looking for. So once you have this little device made, and it might take you 1 or 2 times to make one, once you got it made, you can always set it up, and you can cut these dice in half every time. Now, I want to mention one more thing. Cutting these dice, because they're plastic, the plastic wants to melt a little bit, and it gives these rough edges. You should be able to just go around and break that plastic off the outer edge, and do the same thing with this one here. Sometimes the plastic it'll roll up on the edge because it's hot, because of the friction. Just kind of peel that off. So now you got your 2 pieces of dice, and you're going to end up with a number 3 and a number 4 for your keychain. And it depends on how you cut your dice, whether or not you want a 6 or a 1 or a 3 or a 4. It just depends on how you set your dice in this template. So we're going to do one more thing to these now before we actually put these in our keychain. We have to do one more thing. So let me just get a few things set up, and we'll be back with that. All right, the next thing you got to do is when you cut these on the bandsaw, you got the real sharp, still got the square sharp corners on these pieces. And if you go to try to put them, like here's 2 keychains that have to be cut out. But if you go to try to put them square corners in that round, you try to put something square in a round hole, the corners are going to catch, and it's going to be hard to put them in. So what I do, after I cut them in half, I clean off any plastic that might be in the way. What I do is use my 1-inch belt sander. You could use a disc sander if you wanted to too. But I use a 1-inch belt sander, and I grab it with the pliers, because you don't want to hang on to it with your fingers because this gets warm a little bit. But what I want to do is just take this corner down just a little bit in the back, not on the top. This is the top part which is going to be seen when you put it in the keychain. You want to go on the back side of the dice and just knock down that corner just a little bit. You'll see. Okay, So you can see, I don't know if you can really see it or not, but these corners right here, I just kind of knocked them down. They're not real sharp square corners from when you cut it on the bandsaw. And then there might be some melted pieces of plastic on the back of this. What you can do is just take a piece of, I got some sandpaper attached to a piece of wood. You can just take and go like that, and that'll clean the bottom of your dice off, because you want that nice and flat and clean when you go to put it in your keychain. So you just got to round the corners, just kind of knock that corner off the bottom of your dice. So let's head back over to the workbench and we will get this all put together. Alright, so we have our piece made that holds our dice to cut it in half. We have our dice cut in half, and you want to make sure that the bottom of your dice are clean, so when you set them in your keychain, it'll sit down nice and flat. I think I left my, let me grab my keychains that I'm going to show you with this here. Alright, so here is two keychains. I didn't cut them out yet. I just wanted to show you how to cut the dice in half and put them in the hole. But normally you would cut these keychains out. You'd drill the holes and then cut them out and do the mount the dice in last. But I want to show you. And maybe you can see this better this time. This one here, I didn't knock the corners down in the back. I didn't put them on my little sander and knock the corners down. If you go to try to put that in that hole, you got the square. You're trying to put something square in a round hole, and it doesn't really work the greatest. But here's the one where we kind of knocked the corners down on the back side. Now, if you can see this, I'm not sure if you can. You can see this. You'll be able to set that in there because the corners are knocked down, but it's not all the way down in there. What I usually do, and I can do this now, even though I don't have this cut out, I can do this now. What I usually do is use a little bit of a Gorilla Glue. I just put a little dab in here. You don't need much. Then I just grab a little hammer and just set that dice over the top of that hole. And put it back down inside that keychain. Now you got it down in there, and it fits perfect. What I didn't mention before, when you drill these holes are actually, let me see here, these holes are actually 13/16. This is a 13/16 hole. That's a 13/16 hole with a Forstner bit. Now, I have a template gauge here with a hole drilled in it, so deep. This is the depth gauge. So when I make these keychains, they're always made out of 1/2 inch thick wood, and this is the depth that I need to drill these holes to have this keychain fit down in there perfect like this. So when I go to drill all these, when I trace out a bunch of keychains and I got to drill these holes, I just go on the drill press and I set my depth like this here, and now I can drill all these holes the same thickness. Now if I go to put this dice in this one, let's just do that. We'll put that dice in there. No, we can't do it because we got to let me quick drill these, let me quick sand this corners off of this one, and I'll show you that this one will go in there and it'll look just like this because the hole is drilled all exactly the same. That's why it's important to get these dice cut exactly in half and be the same size. Let me quick go and sand them edges up, and I'll be right back. Alright, so I got the corners knocked down on the back side of this piece right here. We're just going to take this, slide it over the top of that hole, give it a couple hits, and now we got that dice in there, and it's the same as the other one. So what is important on this whole video is you need to make this piece right here to hold your dice, but it's got to be set up so it cuts exactly in half. You want these dice exactly in half so the two pieces are exactly the same thicknesses, so you can use the same depth of hole on every one of your keychains. That's the main thing. Alright, one more thing I want to mention, because someone's going to bring it up. I know it. They're going to say, why didn't you drill just a bigger hole to put the dice in, because then you don't have to sand the backs off and all this stuff. I didn't like how it looked with the bigger hole. Using the neck size Forstner bit, I didn't like how it looked. I just like how it fits in there really, really snug with just a little bit of space on each side. Another thing is, if you want to stain or paint or do any color to these keychains, do it before you actually put the key ring on it and the dice in it. That way you don't have to worry about getting stain and paint on your dice. Another thing, this pattern is the same as Steve Good's pattern for the keychain that he got for the penny. So if you look at Steve Good's website, you'll see the one he uses for the penny. It's the same teardrop size for that. I'll have his link on my description also. But you don't have to stay with the teardrop. You could make a square keychain or a round one or a diamond. You could do anything you want and put dice in it. It doesn't have to be this shape. So basically this video is just to show you cutting the dice in half and putting it in the hole that I cut. I know the video is kind of messed up here and there, but try to do the best I can to explain to you that you need to have something to hold your dice. Now, maybe somebody will come up with something different. I don't know. I've cut an awful lot of dice in half using this method, and it works just fine. That is for this size of dice. If you're going to go bigger or smaller, you need to change the whole situation. So, with that said, I hope you liked the video. Hit that subscribe button, ring that bell. I do have more tips and tricks and more videos coming on in the future, so give it a try. So we'll see you next time.